Greetings, community. We are
Onetwocomictalk.
Talk, and we're glad to be here in a Comic Talk interviews.
Comic Talk.
So what we decided to do is kind of give you an idea of our journey in this 1 year, and kind of their eyes, our eyes, everyone's eyes. Old MacDonald had a farm. So again, Khalees, I'm going to start with you. This is Khalees. Jerry, have I ever really discussed comics, talked about comics, anime, animation, any of that sort to you before last year about this time? Never even hinted at it. You ever know me as a hardcore gamer or anything? So Kai, now you've been playing games.
I feel like our. Well, yeah, I can say this. Our relationship as father and son has been different than hers and yours, because I actually remember as a kid I at least took interest in you playing like things like the Wii.
Yes. Now in that
and Mario Kart.
You also that's what I was about to get to is you took some of that trace of me playing a little bit and you took off on it heavy. Now that you also went with Mark. Now Mark Kerr
we featured him on our channel before.
Yeah, he's
done our thespian theaters, so
he's my brother.
Check those out if you haven't.
And he frequently would donate, offer his time over at the local at the LCS for board games, where Kai would frequent on the Wednesdays, and then I'd pick you up
at D&D.
So it was asked of me for, I would say this was well over 12, 13, 14 months time period. I mean, even before I got into the books, I was asked to get into the books and even help out the LCS. I was reluctant. One, I knew that the time and effort and money, but I just didn't want to really get sucked into a world that I loved. I know it sounds really odd, but this is what I'm going to get at, and this is how I'm going to segue to it. Moving all the way over. All right, Jerry.
What's up, you guys?
You had some brief introduction to comic books prior in which that you met us.
Yes,
but it was really minor, right?
Well, yeah, a couple.
Now, were you into cartoons?
Ooh, yeah, animation? When I was in middle school, I used to watch a lot of probably Cartoon Network or Adult Swim, stuff like that.
All right, so when the first book I threw at you remember what that was?
The first book you threw at me, I believe it was Cherry Pop-Tart. But that I read with Khalees. That's the first one we read together.
I think so.
It was Cherry Pop-Tart
but on a regular series, as a regular book, the first thing I gave to you was
that I was really hooked up in. It was Unsacred.
Right.
Sacred.
Right. Now, I did it on purpose because I wanted, you got the age and everything, I was trying to fit into the demographic, but I segued you into something totally different. Went to the horror, and then we and a little kind of a religious touch. But it's something that you were also familiar with. Do you remember what that was?
Was it
American
Horror Story?
No. American Jesus.
Yeah. Oh, American Jesus. Yes. I remember that when I read the first two.
So what was your guys' opinion when I threw those books at you?
I think I read it too. Oh, you didn't read American Jesus. I did.
Oh, okay. But you were reading it in the same room, and you guys watched the show, right?
Yeah, we watched the show.
But the show was completely
the show was a lot different than the actual comic. But she did see a little parts of what I was reading. I honestly do. I read a couple verses off the Bible, and then I noticed that it would link back to the comic, and that kind of got me more intrigued into it, so.
Now, and again, that was another thing that I did on purpose. I wasn't certain that you would read it, but I knew that if he did, that you would be exposed to the story. All right. So I guess my hope is not only because Kai and I were now getting so interested and involved in comics, but I wanted to make it a whole family affair. I not only wanted Kai and I to have the ability to look back at YouTube videos and stuff, but I wanted also that to be shared with the whole family as a whole. you guys at any point, which by the way, he's the guy who did all the editing on the video, put it all together for Kai and I and all that. So, I mean, you now got really familiar with our stuff only because you did all that work.
And I honestly was doing the work and watching the videos at the same time. So I kind of had I seen your whole show from beginning to end and a lot of the important people that were in it. And I feel like I learned a lot about the comic book community, and I didn't think it was as diverse as it is. I seen all types of people just being on the show and giving out crazy stories that it's pretty cool. So,
and then I actually can't put it any better than what you just said. This community is not only as giving as you just made mention, and as you conveyed, mostly with your emotion, but it is diverse and as dynamic as you just said. It's trippy and vast, So again, I guess, Kai, that is one of the things I want to hit you up is did you ever expect when we first started this that we'd be meeting the people that we did? It's not necessarily just the artists and creators, because we were doing that before, but the YouTube people, Mad Mike, Lewis, 2-6, all these people that we met. Isn't it kind of a trip how different everyone is
around us? Is what you're saying?
Well, how different everyone is, but the commonality behind it.
The comic that everyone loves comics, no matter how different they are.
Around
that unification is pretty cool, but that's the cool thing about any given genre, and that's why we talk about all different kinds of genres. You got games and you got anime, you got a lot of different things that bring people together. So no matter how different they are, they still share a common interest.
That's pretty cool to me, because a lot of the comic books you be talking about, there's movies that are based off of those comic books, and it just trips me out.
There might be fans of those movies rather than the comics,
because you just get like a preview of what's probably gonna come in a movie, so you're just already knowing, and that's pretty cool.
It is. I mean, and what I find fun is the fact that initially I was kind of being reluctant on doing the whole thing because I didn't want it to be about me, but the fact that he and I got to go meet certain artist creators that I guess inspired us to start the show, that it was fun for the idea of being able to kind of like what you're saying, get these previews of things that I know are going to be made. When I mean no, I mean there are times when we're given privileged information saying they're not only, a lot of people will say optioned, but they're actually going in production. There's a considerable difference. So when I hear things like Rodney Barnes, Philadelphia going into production, when I hear things like Garrett Gunn is producing
Franklin and Ghost
for pieces to be
a cartoon,
well for future animation to be looked at as pitches and things that are really being looked at for not necessarily just option but be production use, and I get it just as excited as you just said, to being able to see this and going, hey, this is what it's going to be like. So I guess starting from the beginning.
What questions do you guys have? Maybe
questions?
Yeah, just think about them while we're talking.
Questions about the show. I would just, how did you guys feel comfortable or how would I say this? How did you guys get to know more people in the community little by little, and just build relationships with them, I guess? Was it something that was hard for you, or was it?
For me, I would have to say initially when Kai and I were dropping videos,
we had a lot of people like Carolina Chris T6 and Perry lurking us early.
And that was the thing, is they found us.
Yeah, they kind of found us rather. We really didn't intentionally seek anyone out. People kind of found us, and it just kind of grew.
Now we watched a couple of people. We were watching Rod.
We dropped comments.
We were watching JB.
We dropped comments. We joined their live chats. But they found us, which was really cool because, these shout out shows with JB on Discovery Bay, Roderick and Perry for a long time, Perry of Perry Comics for the longest time. His biggest thing was going around finding channels that had no subs, no viewers, people that
were just so small and just starting out that he was trying to assist. And what he would do these shows that were called lurking, and he would go on there, and knowing that he had a community behind him already, he would go and basically share their videos on his show.
He would basically go to the small channels and he would lurk them, leave a comment, and share them on his show, and
so they could feel more involved.
So, no, lurking because they would watch their show. And he would show the channel and share it on a
live. Yeah. So you get recognized.
So the entire time people are watching with him. And he did that to us, is what we're saying.
Right.
And so that's how more people came to us that way. That's how we got help from a lot of people.
That's how the community grows in general, is these people try to help one another out. It's a very, we're building a human pyramid, and the base is really big. You know what I mean? There's few people that make it actually to the top, but the base is enormous. And it's easy to kind of get locked into a little corner, but you start opening up and start finding out there's a lot of people willing to shout you out and hang out with you.
I remember the first time seeing Dylan Comics, actually. I noticed that he's more of my age, and I just seen, it's just different age groups just, linking together and talking about cool shit.
He has a cool ass dog.
Dylan?
Yeah. Shout out to Dylan and his dog.
Yeah. And I agree. Like you said, with the diversity, both in types of interest and age group. I'm considerably older than you are. And there's a lot of people that bridge all those gaps in timeline between the young, him, Hero, and the kid, there's Will, Ben, and now there's a lot of the people like Mark, Napa, and Three Lions, all these guys, even Mo, I saw that you brought your kid on. There's a lot of people that are now doing the family thing, and also that what they're doing is they're bringing a new generation. So it's cool to see how the community is not only growing in size, but growing in age diversity. Hey, aggressive. So I think that's a promising thing. You guys hanging out here and even showing interest in doing this is, to me, to the community, I believe, is a promising thing, because we're always questioning, is this going to be something that's going to be in the future? Like, you guys have your phones and stuff like that.
Exactly. I was actually going to comment on that. Well, I wanted to start off by saying, like, before this year with all the YouTube stuff, like, I know I've had the comics in my room forever, but I never, like, looked at them or anything, and the comics that are up are always usually, like, the basic things, like, that come out in the movies or whatever, like, so I always thought it was Marvel based and stuff like that, but then because of the comics I realized, like, it's just random people making random stories and, like, so many different types of genres. And I feel like what you were saying with the technology and the phones, like, we have a lot of technology things, like, that's where all of our focus is on right now, and not a lot of, like, real life things, and especially books are, like, rare. People rarely read books. And so I feel like this is an art that I feel our generation, if they knew more about it, and through YouTube, if, like, especially your channel, if we knew about this, and through him editing the video and watching your videos, it would be so much more popular, because it's, like, so cool. Like, I don't understand how people don't know about it. So this is a small community, but I feel like it could definitely spread, and it should spread, because yeah.
I want to talk about one of the things that kind of hit you. One of the things that you gravitated to as far as the comics. You really liked Mia's stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Do you remember the first time that I gave you Mia Bunn's book?
Yeah. I think what I recognized, first of all, the images and everything, it kind of reminded me of, like, what is the cartoon I'm thinking of?
Boondocks.
No.
Boondocks?
No. It reminded me of, like, a cartoon that is already out, like, on Netflix or something, and...
Oh, Big Now?
Maybe. But in general, anyway, just the imagery and everything, and the big butts, and the music, I was like, I know this song, like I can relate to this, like this is all I see on Twitter and everything, but it's in a book and it's like cool, you know? And you have to wait till the next book to see what happens instead of like just a Twitter feed and then it's over with, you know? Like it's a real life book by a person, like they talk to the person. I have stickers now. So it was pretty cool, you know, compared to just things you see on your phone every day, I guess.
So what you're describing is kind of what Kai and I have described in the past, that you're now, because of the tangibility of holding these things and playing with these things and talking to these people, as opposed to just circuitry, you are now having stories to these stories.
Yeah.
And that was something that I've always said, that when we do these interviews with these artists, these creators, what touches me is with these discussions with Kai, when we read these things, I've been able to have these stories to these stories beyond the stories. If that makes sense to everyone out there, which is fun.
I think two really important things relating to that is Sweetheart and what was the other one I'm thinking of that meant a lot? I just had it in my head.
Canto?
No.
No heroin. Recent, older.
I think. No. Well, I know Sweetheart was really important for me. Like that's just something you could. Oh, and the Guide to a Black Man Getting Pulled Over.
Oh.
And
yeah.
So things like that.
Johnny
like,
Parker.
There's books like Cherry Pop Tart or whatever that are just like cool and they don't really mean a lot. The imagery is cool or whatever. The drawings and stuff, the drawings are really cool. But then there's also books that like you can actually relate to and actually mean something, and that'll stick with you harder than something maybe you see on your phone, because it's like, I don't know, books mean a lot more, except that it's shorter too, so the message is just conveyed like way easier, and through images too, it's just a lot different. So yeah.
Damn, this was a lot more than I actually expected. I knew that this journey would be cool. I only hoped that what you and I would experience would only kind of bleed off to the rest of the family, and even Mom. You know, my wife Cindy. She. Shout out to you, Drew. Shout out to you, David. She's read If I Only Had a Heart. I mean, or what?
Canto. If I Only Had a Heart, which is the first arc.
Correct. And I never thought I would ever get, a trade paperback in her hand. And, and just to see her on the couch, I've taken a picture, I put it up on Instagram, to kick back and read that book. It warmed my heart. It was cool to see how these stories have touched the family and the way that it has. And, I mean, I don't think I could have asked anything more.
Hey, I still got one more question for you, actually.
No, I'm not going anywhere than what has been able to transpire. Go ahead.
So before you actually hit me up to go and get Canto, what, like, were you hesitant? Like, were you like maybe, or like just what were your thoughts?
Because of Mark, I had been doing research. So my brother had been asking me to get back into the comic book
because
world
of
for
me
a while.
Because of me being at D&D, I remember.
Also because of some of the things that were happening at some of the shops, and especially the one that was here. They just wanted me to be a little more involved, and he knew that I had knowledge. So he wanted me to spread that knowledge. So I didn't want to force you into anything. I kind of slow played it and seeing how you would react to certain things. And so I saw a story that was coming up from I've always been an individual that supported independent comics. And back when I was young, I was supporting Image, Valiant, I'm trying to remember, Defiant, a lot of the Malibu, a lot of these things that were just starting back then. So again, the Usagi Yojimbo, all these other books, these were all through like Mirage and all these other, they were small. So I've always been an independent. I've always enjoyed meeting and greeting with artists and creators, and a lot of which actually started in this area. So after discussing with you about a couple of things and then hitting you up and seeing that David was going to be at Golden Apple, going to a place that I haven't visited since 94, on a regular basis, Golden Apple Comics, and they had already moved. It just seemed like everything was kind of, all the stars were lining up. And I didn't want to turn my back on things that just seemed like it was calling me. I'm not one for like fate and all that other stuff. At the same point, I'm not one to turn my back on things that are just happening. I've been privileged by capitalizing on the gifts and things that were always set upon me. And to turn my back on it is neglect, right? So that's what started the whole journey, man. And it's been cool because I got to share with all you guys, and I'm grateful.
So from us I think that concludes the show. From us at 1-2
Comic Talk.
Comic Talk.
We're
out.